Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Best of 2022, brought to you by Get Your Geek On. I'm Robert, that's Aaron, and that is Frank, and we are talking about Miss Marvel, of course, which starred Iman Vellani as the title character, and then a lot of other people. We're not going to really spend a lot of time on that because we just want to make this a quick video about things that we loved in 2022. And Miss Marvel was one of those, and I'm going to start first. I've usually been throwing this to my co-host to say, what did you love? What did you love?
Right.
This, for me, honestly, this show was just so refreshing because it was just this slice of life. It was a coming of age story about, a young girl who already feels like an outsider. She feels like she doesn't fit in with any particular community. She's got one foot in her heritage, one foot in America. She's got, like this kind of nerdy vibe to her where she's a huge, super fan of the MCU or of the characters that are inhabiting it.
So basically, she's already one of us.
Right, she's us. And then, she gets these powers that she's trying to work through. But honestly, the thing that I loved about this, because the story itself is pretty standard. Like, it's nothing too crazy. It's like, girl gets powers, tries to figure them out. Other people have nefarious ideas, whatever. But the thing that sets this show apart and why I had to talk about it is just the relationships that we see, whether it's, her and her family with her, parents or her brother, or we see, like her friends, Bruno and Nakia, and the way they interact. We see, she encounters some new people and how she interacts with them, her grandma. And honestly, I mean, the episode of the flashback in the 1940s with her great-grandma, Aisha, and I think it's Hassan, is the man she falls in love with. Like, that episode in particular was just a beautiful episode, giving us some context into maybe some history that a lot of people don't really know, which is about when India and Pakistan got their independence from the British Empire and how that affected people who lived in those areas and how different people had to, if you were Muslim, basically you had to go to Pakistan, and if you were Hindi, you would, go to India. And so people were, kind of moving around, and it affected so many people's lives. They call it the partition. And it's just one of those things that, I didn't know that much about. And seeing it brought to life in this show, it was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It was all those things. And the core of this show is about these characters, and it's about the heart that they show. It's about the relationships that they have. And I just found myself so drawn to these characters and the way that they interacted with one another and the supportive vibe that we got. I mean, a character that was a real standout was the sheik of the local mosque, who just he only was in maybe 2 or 3 episodes. He only popped in for maybe 3 or 4 scenes, but whether it was, him kind of encouraging Kamala Khan and telling her to just be herself and all those things, or it was kind of standing up to the Department of Damage Control when they're trying to come into the mosque, and the way, all of it, it was just, I loved it. I loved this show.
It kind of made me feel like he knew, and he was telling her, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we got you. But I think my favorite part of it was the blonde girl, the mean girl, the one that didn't like.
Oh yeah,
Kamala.
yeah, Zoe. I think
Zoe. Yeah, I think
she saved in the first episode.
Well, she's saved in the first episode, but she doesn't like Kamala, but she loves Miss Marvel.
Right.
And it's just gonna tell you don't judge a book by its cover, because you'll always have something in common. They were both big Miss Marvel fans, and then when she found out about the Light, or what was she called, Nightlight, they gave her some crappy superhero name. She's like, oh my god, I'm a big fan. And it's you meet your heroes, and then you're like, oh, well, damn, I already knew her. It's kind of like Flash and, was it Spider-Man?
Yeah, sure.
When he's always making fun of Peter Parker, but he's like, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man.
Flash Thompson.
Yeah,
oh my
Flash
god,
Thompson.
Peter Parker is really Spider-Man. I've been doing some mean things.
And it's I love that connection where it's you finally meet your hero, and you're like, damn, we had something in common. Why am I being such a jerk to somebody? We'll always have that common thread,
And I think for me, it's I don't know about you, Frank, and I know, not trying to bash you in any way, Robert, but we get more representation for minorities in this. We don't really have a lot of Hispanic, Native American, Indie, Pakistani, etc. Anything overseas. I'm gonna just rephrase it into that sense.
Sure.
We're finally getting more and more of our minorities stepping up and becoming these characters, and are not getting whitewashed. They're not anything. We're getting a character who
the way
we
they
are
showed
able to,
the Muslim community
exactly that's what I was leading
was
into.
just so different than any other depictions
Yes.
we've seen, and it was just like, this is real life. This is what their community is actually like, and it's not this weird caricature. It's not this stereotype. Like, they're regular people who deal with regular stuff, and they just happen to be Muslims.
And that's one thing I want to lead into. Going with that, honestly, my normal job, my normal 8 to 5, I always like to say, I hear about like the Bollywood stuff and all of that, and some of it just seems so over the top for me. I actually just had this conversation recently where it's like, oh man, Bollywood just doesn't hit for me. I have to watch it. I've seen some stuff and it doesn't hit. But this was just enough to make me say, like, this is interesting. I want to know more about their culture and more about who these people are at the end of the day. Whereas the Bollywood are a little over the top sometimes. It's almost like a telenovela.
Telenovelas, like it's just like over exaggerated. But
Exactly.
I think that's what I loved, and that's what I loved about it. That the fact that when the ants are together and they're like talking about, it's like he's never gonna meet somebody. And it's like that's the way my tias are. They're like getting together, they're all talking. It's like, oh, he's never gonna meet somebody like good. I'm like, yes, exactly. Like shopping.
Don't worry, I come from a big Italian family. We're like that too.
And I'm looking
the same way.
And I'm looking at this, and I was like, dude, those are my aunts.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, we're all so similar. And she's like standing there with like her dresses, and it's like, I remember my cousins are like, this is my quinceañera dress, and I was like, I don't want to wear
And
this.
I think Frank just hit it though. We're all in that same boat.
It's all
Of course, being a Hispanic heritage, and like you said, Italian with your heritage, and Native American, Mexican, and honestly Jewish at this point. Or you get the, oh man, why aren't you dating somebody? Why aren't you this?
Why haven't you met that good girl?
We all have that experience, and we can all touch on it from a different level. We don't have to be Muslim. We can be Hispanic, white, or Italian,
100%.
and Jewish, Native, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like we all hit that button.
Earlier I said like they just happen to be Muslim, and that makes it sound like it's not celebrated. So I apologize for that, because they do like they are Muslim, and they celebrate the fact that they're Muslim, but they're also celebrating that culture is just like any other culture.
Exactly.
Like any other religion. You go to church,
Absolutely.
you sit there, you have to pray. Granted, they don't do that stand up, sit down.
Well, that's what you both
everybody's
have.
got different rituals and different things. And that's the thing,
But it's all
again,
the same.
like seeing that the window into that community and that window into, maybe something you haven't been exposed to before.
Right.
Like, it was just a really great opportunity to see that. And again, what made this show stand out was the characters, was the people. And, full credit to the writers and, of course, the comic book creators that have, created these characters, but certainly these actors brought them to life. And, Iman Vellani specifically as Miss Marvel, as Kamala Khan, she was just charming and, funny and all of those things. And I can't wait. Like, she's going to be in the Marvels with, of course, Captain Marvel and there was a Photon or whoever it was that was in WandaVision, and I loved that character as well. Like, I'm so excited to see more of this character and certainly more of her family, because again, all those scenes where they were together, like, I think my favorite scene in the whole show was when they were at their big like community-wide event where they were having some, I don't remember what it is called, but they were there. And her friend Nakia was like campaigning to
petitioning to be like
on
the head of the
and she comes up to Kamala's dad and basically blackmails him into supporting her, and it's just like
but she does it like so subtly.
Oh, it's so good.
I want to point that part out. That was one of my favorite parts too. Is the old way of thinking. He's like, oh, well, we got to vote for like the man and blah, blah, blah.
I got to vote for my friend and all that stuff.
This is like my daughter's friend. Almost a daughter figure to him.
Like,
all
I'm
of us
your
being
daughter. Like, why wouldn't you vote for family?
Right.
It's
and that's the thing. We all come from a fatherhood background. Yours is older than all of us. Mine's in the middle. Yours being the youngest. We all want our children to be that person that comes up and says, hey, I want to make a revolution. I want to make a change.
A difference.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing about the series is somebody making a difference. And I want to say this is that I think we've almost lost that in some of the films because we get these bigger than life characters, and now we got someone who's whoa, let me bring it back to the everyday person. I mean, we've all connected on different levels with this episode or with this series, I'm sorry. And that we want our kids to be something better. We want ourselves to be something better. We want to learn more. I will not lie. This show made me want to learn more about their culture and the history. And just remember, at the end of the day, we are all the same people. We come from, we may come from different backgrounds, but they all lead to the same path.
I think what I love the dynamic between Kamala and her friend, that, you know, Kamala was just so, like, they're both rooted into the community, but she was more like, I want to be popular. I want to be a superhero. And she was like, well, I want to make a difference by being more political.
By making a change.
It's like, I want to make a difference in the world by being a superhero, but I want to make a difference in the world by actually being in the community. And it kind of like shows you, like, you know what, you can't, like, you can't fly, you can't create stuff with your mind, but you can still make a difference, you know, by being in your community, like, create change. And that's what I love. That, you know, it was like they were both so rooted into their community, but one was making change in the real world and the other one was making change in the superhero world.
Yeah. And anyways, that's what we thought of this show. It was one of our favorites of 2022, and we want to know your thoughts. So did you watch Miss Marvel? Let us know your thoughts down below. If you didn't watch it, we definitely recommend you watch it. I know there were a lot of people that maybe you know, like, maybe it's about a teenage girl. I'm not really going to connect to it. Trust me, give it a chance. I think you'll love it. It's on Disney Plus. Definitely check it out. Aaron?
So on that note, guys, don't forget to check out all of the stuff we do at Official GYGO on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, as we do our podcast. Of course, Frank being our former cameraman who's back now. Maybe we can get some more of him. And on that note, guys, for Aaron, Robert, Frank, stay geeky and get your geek on, guys.
Bye.